My mission is to really turn women on to their majesty, their power, their brilliance, their beauty, their deliciousness. And then from that place, we begin the process of turning on the world to itself.
Welcome to the Deja Blu podcast, where we believe that living a life of magic can be the default. Join us each week as we playfully and authentically dive into the mysteries of life and explore what it truly means to be human. From spirituality, wellness, and all things taboo, we don't hold anything back. So without further ado, let's let the magic unfold. Hello, you beautiful humans, and welcome back to another episode of the Deja Blu podcast. My heart is pounding in the best way possible, and it tends to be the default case when I am around this majestic gift of a human. This woman has created a wake through her offerings that have impacted me many years ago. And the fact that I actually get to be her friend and hang out with her in my home with my sisters and go through activations is a dream come true. So the fact that I actually get to bring her on the podcast today and have a conversation with such an inspiration in my life, and the woman that has single-handedly unlocked me in ways of my liberation that I didn't even know was possible when I was a kid. And yet I get to reconnect with that childlike awe and play, while also rewild the sensual, sexual self and bring them together in the most potent way of manifestation. And anytime I am in Regena Thomashauer's presence, I am illuminated from the inside out. She's also known as Mama Gena. You're probably familiar with her best-selling book, Pussy, a Reclamation, that has hit the shelves and the hearts and the pussies of many women around the world, and men actually, as a way to be able to reclaim the potency that we have as a woman with a pussy, with a Stargate Enterprise between our legs from one portal to the next, and what it truly means to actually rid ourselves of shame to illuminate ourselves from the inside out. Thank you, Mama Gena.
I'm
Regena,
so excited to be here with you.
And
we've had some fun collisions in this lifetime. I look forward to more.
every time you have been in my presence, something deeper has become unlocked.
Oh shit. Where are we going next? My goddess.
I'm literally on the front of a roller coaster on the fun cart, like, I'm having the best time. I'm screaming with joy, and my heart is also palpitating because I'm right at the edge of my comfort zone. I'm like, every time you come into my sphere, I meet the edge of my comfort zone, which ultimately is my highest excitement and where my fear lies.
Yeah.
Because I know
your highest liberation.
And what?
Your highest liberation as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the piece, is when the fear sits side by side with the beauty of a new uncharted territory that I'm about to explore. And that's what you represent.
I'm so glad. I feel honored. I feel like your headlight or something.
I mean, even just from the way that you are dressed on the podcast today is so liberating for me, because you texted me earlier and you said, okay, what is it that you're going to wear today? And I was like, I think I might just put a white dress on. And I responded, wear whatever empowers you the most, liberates you the most, and makes you feel the most badass version of you. And then you walked in wearing this, which I have so much reverence and respect for.
This is what I've learned, that if you want to bring the best out of a woman, put her in lingerie. I don't know why it's true. But let's say I've just studied women for 30 years, and anytime you put a woman in lingerie, she just is like, oh, this is me. This is actually who I am. So I just mostly do everything in lingerie.
And by you being in the embodiment of it, it starts to shift my internal conversation. And it goes, that actually looks like a really great idea.
It just makes you feel free and yourself. I don't know. It's just like a thing that's true, but I don't know why, honestly.
You do massive activations with women that are all wearing lingerie. I think I've seen snippets and videos of you.
Yeah, always. Because why wouldn't I want a woman in her highest, most open, her best, her connection with her own turn on? And, when generally speaking, what women choose to wear has a lot to do with the surrounding culture. And the surrounding culture is not always built by the feminine. It's often built by the masculine or forces that want to control or, subjugate the power of the feminine, or so I tend to just like follow. I like to just like put my finger on the pulse of like what evokes her turn on, what evokes her joy in herself, what makes her feel free, and then I do that, or encourage women to do that with me.
You are standing on the threshold of unlocking a power that has been suppressed for thousands.
Yeah, I would say probably
of years.
They say 5,000 years
5,000.
of patriarchal culture.
There is so much power here that you are activating within the hearts and the pussies of so many women around the world. I'm curious around your perception on why that very power has been suppressed for so long.
Well, I'm not really good at answering why questions because like I wasn't there when the powers that be made the choices they made. The only thing I've noticed is that the dominating impact of the culture currently does everything that it can to disempower the feminine. And so if there was, and I think that's simply because the feminine is so fucking powerful, and our power is terrifying often to men that are determined to hold on to power as domination, which is only one version of power. So, if you think about it, like it's hard for women to connect in sisterhood. And there's so much power in sisterhood. Why? Because we've internalized the patriarchal world's culture. We have so much self-doubt, self-hatred, self-deprecation. We've internalized all those messages. And so if a woman feels a lot of self-loathing, it's impossible for her to want to sister with another woman because she's feeling so, shitty about herself. So so my mission is to really turn women on to their majesty, their power, their brilliance, their beauty, their like deliciousness. And then from that place, we begin the process of turning on the world to itself, because it's a glorious privilege to be alive. And when you suppress any part of any truth, it creates imbalance. In a way, you could look at it like this, like if there was a bird of humanity, right? And the masculine was one wing and the feminine was another wing. Right now, the feminine is like this little shriveled wing and the masculine is this very big, loud wing.
Super strong.
And so what happens is like a shriveled wing and a loud wing, the bird spirals in circles, which is what we have in terms of the culture right now. We are not making glorious progress that is the truth of humans' creativity, artistry, and nature, because there's an imbalance between the masculine and feminine. And so my job in this lifetime is to just like really expand the feminine wings so that we can have that beautiful combination of masculine and feminine that we all long for at some deep level. So we're just blowing up the wing now, baby.
It's time to fly, fam. It's time to fly. So what I usually find in life is that our greatest challenge is also our greatest gift. And I would love to introduce to my audience a little bit about how you've been able to move through your own internal patriarchy, be shame, to be able to then get to this place of your greatest offering and your gift to the world that you don't just give when you're working or when you're online or doing your online programs. It's just who you are in the default and the nature of every fiber of your being, so that even I can imagine you even just sitting at an airport and just reading a book, you're already emanating permission slips like left, right, and center without people even knowing, just through the radiance of who you are. And I'm curious a little bit about your own journey with shame that gets projected on a woman that is so fully liberated and expressed.
Thanks for asking. I'd love to hear your journey as well, right? Because like we sitting in these seats, right, don't get here without a fuck ton of crawling out from the brambles and the bullshit and the challenges and the heartbreak and all of that. So I think like so many women inside of this culture, I had abuse patterns in my family really from the time I was an infant. And so I never felt safe, as so many women do not feel safe. There's when I do like my informal polls, if I'm teaching 200 women or 1,000 or a few thousand women, I'll always say, who's experienced verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, stand. And I'll get like 99.9% of women standing, because you don't get to be an adult without having had, massive amount of challenges. And I think like that 0.1% that don't stand, they just don't remember. Um, so I don't think my storyline is atypical. I think that many of us come from having had challenges that have been really impactful. I didn't even know the full impact, but I do remember. Um, I've always been kind of like a mission-driven person, even from the time I was a child, and so I had this abuse in my life from the time I was a baby, and then when I was about 5, I can remember waking up one day, looking out the window, and thinking like, "Shit, I am not looking forward to the day." And I thought, "What is that would take like the enthusiasm away from a child?" And I got to figure that out. So I wanted to. I always was like on a quest to figure it out, and then soon around that time, literally the goddess would come to me at night, and she would sit on my pillow, and I would feel her, and then I could feel this emanation of this beauty and this presence and this like it felt like my insides were turning to butterscotch because of this radiant I just was like, oh, that's the goddess. And when I would turn to look at her, she would vanish. And from that, I understood that she lives in the periphery, that I couldn't see her straight on, but that she would live in the periphery. But then I thought, I'm Jewish and I know she's not in synagogue. So I will go looking for her because I'd been reading Harriet the Spy, which is this childhood book about this girl who's a spy. And so I began to look for the goddess, and I'd have my spy notebook and I would look for the goddess. I went to like, my first stop was the Catholics because my friend Susan Murphy was Catholic and she took me to her church because I thought for sure they had the goddess because they have Christmas and that seemed very celebratory. But there was no goddess there. And I went to all of the churches and temples and I did that for like almost a decade before I hung up my little spyware and stopped looking. But I never found her, so I was a bit disheartened. But I never stopped longing for that experience. And then fast forward, probably the most life changing, like the moment where that sort of put the whole package of my life in connection with itself, was after studying. I spent really basically my 20s after breaking up with a boyfriend and realizing I had no clue who I was as a woman and wanting so much to learn and understand and figure out my own pain and not being able to find it in therapy or different programs that I was trying. So I went on this long internal journey of being a hermit and researching indigenous cultures, ancient goddess religion, the work of Merlin Stone, Joseph Campbell, and the archetypes, Carl Jung, Maria Gimbutas. And I was like learning so much about how possibly this ancient culture was once celebrated when goddess existed and God was a woman in addition to being a man, and because none of our the major religions, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, all those have male icons running the show. So I was astonished and moved to find out that there was a time when she was worshipped. And so I spent years trying to learn more about that, and then ended up realizing like it was not exactly moving me ahead in my life to live my passion or to live my fullness. And so I made a bit of a swivel turn, ended up in a class that had a homework that gave me the assignment to treat myself as if I was the most important person in the world, which I'd never done before. I always treated other people as if they were the most important people in the world. I think that's a common hole that women fall into. And in so doing, I set up flowers, sparkling water, beautiful little snacks. I took a bath. I put lotion on myself. I was like pampering myself like I'd never done before. And then part of the exercise, we have to look yourself in the mirror. So I stand in front of the mirror. I look into my eyes. I started to weep because I was like, that's where the goddess is hiding. She was in me all the time. And I never knew. And then if she's in me, she's in every woman. And then I was like, okay, that's what I'm here for. Is I have to awaken her and awaken that in every woman. But I knew I didn't know how to do it yet. And I knew that I had to understand who I was sensually and sexually. And so I moved into a place called, it was at that time called Moore University. It was or Lafayette Morehouse, it's called now. And it was basically a highly evolved sex commune where I got the most incredible education, learned about orgasm, became certified to do demonstrations of extended massive orgasm. And like I found my connection to my divinity by connecting to pleasure. And so that kind of charted the course for what became my life, because it was always about like, fuck, damn, okay. This is my whatever. This is my pathway. I'll stand for her.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stand for her.
And when you stand for her, you stand for all of us. And that's really what I feel from
thank you.
Your story and your share is, I feel the golden thread that connects all of the women together, and your ability to navigate the cards that you have been dealt from a place of alchemizing and the alchemist within you that was convinced or committed, devoted to alchemizing whatever it is that happened into empowerment. Yeah. And from your empowerment, you've activated such a deep level of service that has impacted hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people around the world. And being able to just hear firsthand your journey and your experience, my empathy is so deeply in there with you as we go in this arc and this journey. Yeah. And just from my own personal experience, how I've been impacted from your alchemical process. Wow. Is so inspiring.
That is so cool. You have to tell me more about that. And let's say I want to take like one little moment here and just to say, like, for anyone who is listening to this, first of all, standing for the goddess is not just standing for women, it's standing for men as well. Mm-hmm. Because that imbalance in our culture hurts men so deeply. Mm-hmm. And so it's my love of men and women and children that motivates me. Mm-hmm. And I want to also say that for anyone who's listening to this at a particular time, like where you're thinking about, should I trust my path? It seems so off the wall. It seems so outside of center of where other people are stepping. Trust that path. Mm-hmm. Trust your desires. Trust your longing, because there is there is a desire that lives deeply inside everyone that is uniquely ours, that if we are not living its fullness, then the world is missing a piece of its ability to evolve, that each of us has like a secret buried treasure that if we don't live, the world will long for it and never be able to be the recipient of the medicine that is uniquely yours. So yeah. Trust the fuck out of yourselves. Trust the fuck out of yourselves, bitches.
Yeah. Please make a quote card with that. Trust the fuck out of yourselves, bitches. I won't put that as the wallpaper on my phone. Just constant reminder throughout the day. Never have there been wiser words spoken on the podcast.
It's kind of succinct.
Even just that section of trust the fuck out of yourself, bitches. Like, it is such a dance to trust pleasure when one's whole life, in my own personal experience, has been told that pleasure equals shame.
Yeah.
Or that pleasure is not okay.
Yeah.
In my boarding school, we had what was called a 30 centimeter rule, which was if you're close to somebody of the opposite sex by 30 centimeters, you would get in trouble. You'd have to write lines, or like there would be some sort of repercussion because you are connected to somebody of the opposite sex. So as a young child, this creates the foundation of one's consciousness that then goes, okay, my eros, my sensuality is okay and accepted when it is with my partner. But the second that starts to be felt anywhere else, there's like this, literally from the internal narrative that is creating the foundation of the construction of my consciousness. So then when I am in the presence of you and Layla and the epic women that live in this house, what it does is it creates a flashlight and it shines on all the areas that I have not allowed myself to actually be liberated by my own eros, and realizing in your presence how I'm drinking the ocean through a straw when I could be bathing in it.
I get it. I think that's harsh though, babe. I think it's like fucking amazing they're even sipping the ocean. I mean, coming from English boarding school, and was it co-ed school?
Yeah. But we were in like it was co-ed, but we had boarding houses. So I was in a boarding house with just girls. It's like very like Harry Potter. And there was 52 girls that raised each other basically from a very young age. Where I was raised by sisterhood.
Wow. From how old to how old?
Well, I started going to boarding school at 7 and until 18.
Oh shit. And then like, so within that decade plus, how did your sensuality emerge? Like, what would you like, would the girls like relate sensually to each other? Would you like make out with each other just to practice?
Yes.
Would you have sensual experiences
That's
together?
Exactly what we did. We would actually, the way that we learned about sexuality was through porn. We would be like,
shit.
Yeah, that's all how we learned. So we would be young kids. I don't know, like, early teens. And we would go to each other's rooms and be like, okay, it's porn night. We're going to learn about sex.
Oh my God.
And we would put it on and we'd all sit there and be like, chat about it. Okay, what do you think about this? Oh my God, what does that mean? So literally our education was based off this theatrical explanation of what sex was.
Oh my God.
And then to learn how to actually make out, we would all make out with each other.
Oh, that's so good.
But it was like, okay, less tongue. There was a bit too much saliva in that one. Okay, go back and go in again. And that was how we learned. And it wasn't necessarily that there was an eros between us. It was more so of like sisters training each other how to go out into life.
Okay, great.
Because it wasn't necessarily taught. I mean, yes, there was a sex class where we were given these like dildos and we had to learn how to put,
Yeah.
We had to learn how to put a condom on it. So we would all be like sword fighting with these dicks in class, and then you would put the condoms on and be like, da-da-da. And I remember getting these condoms, and they were handed out as like at the end of the class. And me and my best friend, there was like a sell-by date on it that was like in 10 years. And we said, if we haven't lost our virginity by the time this expires, then we've got to figure something out. And we like cheersed ourselves with these condoms and put them in our wallet.
Oh my God. So when did you have sex for the first time?
18.
As soon as you got out of school kind of thing?
Yeah. So it was when I had finally graduated from school.
Okay.
I was one of the last ones.
Okay, great, whatever.
And it was with my very first boyfriend. And it was kind of like this celebrated thing. My parents knew about it. They knew it was going to happen.
No
they supported me. I
way.
was going off and I was like, I'm going to lose my virginity. This is a big deal.
Oh my God. And how was it?
It was great. Like it was, I mean, looking back on it, it was like a bit awkward, but it was definitely not traumatizing. It was safe.
That's great.
Beautiful.
And did he like know how to pleasure your body and give you an orgasm?
No.
Okay.
No,
All
he was
right.
just more so like penis, vagina, they go together. Da 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 da. Hey.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. It's awkward. You could lose interest if it stayed like that. You know, that because that's the legacy of all that porn education. You know, we don't
exactly.
Yeah, we don't really learn about our own bodies. But I think that's like kind of an advantage to have all the girlfriends like rallying around.
Yeah.
That was nice. And let's say, when did you first have that experience of like feeling like turn on in your body? Was it with that boy? Or was it like in the girl gang at school?
Actually, so I didn't have any shame around my pleasure from a very young
Yeah.
age. And so I would just like gyrate on random objects.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I was getting it from a young age. Like I would be like, side of a sofa, hell yeah.
And then you would just be like, oh, yeah.
I was like, this feels nice.
And like to the point where you got yourself off?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't even know what it was.
Damn.
Yeah, girl, I've been doing it since 1995. You know what I mean?
Yeah. From like how old?
I was like, yeah, about 6 years old.
That is so damn good.
I was getting it from a young age.
Okay, you are such a little slutty 6-year-old. Yes, you were. Oh, yes.
I'm a Scorpio, 5 planets. Let's go.
Okay.
5. We out here, Regina. We out here.
That is a lot. Wow. Okay, thank God, right?
I mean.
And then have you been just like kind of going boyfriend to boyfriend to boyfriend type?
No, so I didn't have a boy. Like he was like my first kind of love, but he wasn't an official boyfriend. I didn't have my first boyfriend until I was 25. I was the only one in school that never had a boyfriend, and I always thought there was something wrong with me.
Yeah,
I didn't know what I'd done. I didn't know why I could. Like I just craved for someone to be like, "That's my girlfriend," but like didn't have that until I was in my mid-20s, and then since then I've been in partnership for the past 7 years straight.
Okay.
Yeah, and I haven't. I literally have just gone from partner to partner, and now this is the first time in 7.5 years that I'm single. I wish I love about us.
Danger, danger, danger! Yeah. That slutty little 6-year-old is out and about, ready to like hump some furniture. Okay.
And then I just got to like, I guess, bring again back to the relatability of, the times that I have been able to have the utmost like honor of being in your presence, that we have gone through activations together every time.
True.
And there was a moment at Burning Man where both of us ended up, out of all 80,000 people at Burning Man, you and I ended up in these tiny little tents. There was 4 people in mine.
Wretched, tiny little tent.
And next to a sound stage that would make sound, like not just sound, but bass that completely echoed through every single bone in our body.
24 hours a day.
It was like, how do we torture a human? Put them in a tiny tent with no AC and next to a soundstage that does not stop vibrating bass that is so earth-shattering that there's no way that any sleep is even on the cards.
There's no way.
So I'm like, both of us, in our own individual way.
No, I was in purgatory. I was burned by the burn.
Both of us, like, But then there was a little silver lining of knowing that you were in the tent next to me.
It was helpful.
And I remember coming over and just having a little bit of solstice, and we ended up doing what you call swamping.
We did.
Would you be open to sharing with us a little bit more about what swamping is?
Yes. Okay. As you could tell, the buildup was that we were in living hell. Now, living hell...
It was.
Living hell can happen many, many, many ways. Living hell can happen with, nights and nights of sleeplessness under really harsh conditions. Yeah. It can happen because of a loss of a loved one or a beloved. It can happen because of, some huge transition in your life. You lose a job, you get a job, you have to move, you get a divorce, there's so many reasons to rupture. Mm-hmm. It's part of life. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we're like on the up and then sometimes we are on the crash, and it's just part of life. And normally speaking, inside of our culture, we don't really have any tools or technology around how do you handle when shit starts to fly in a really powerful, unstoppable way. Mm-hmm. And okay, your dog wants you to pick his.
She does. She likes to be.
She wants to be on the podcast. Okay. And she knows that we're talking about rupture. And so she's feeling the vibe. She's like, I will comfort you both.
Yeah.
I just need to be a little front and center right now. So, but I'm here for you.
Yeah.
So,
She is. She's always there.
so what I learned is that, throughout my life is that I had no capacity for processing any dark emotions or dark experiences.
Mhm.
Like, I didn't really know how to grieve or rage or just move through, boatloads of unmanageable emotions. And I learned that my body really wanted to experience those things fully and expansively and wholeheartedly. So um, I just one day, and it's sort of like, it was like I could feel just, there's times when darkness would just descend,
Mhm.
maybe right before my period or before ovulation. It just seemed like my body was craving to rage or craving to grieve. And it was just like, sometimes I couldn't even pin it on a fact, but it was just like I could feel that need in my being. And so, and because of having studied so many indigenous cultures and ancient goddess traditions, I knew that there was, well, my theory was, what I'd learned was that in patriarchal culture, there's good and bad, there's right and wrong, but in the divine feminine, there's perfection in everything. Like, there's holy in everything. So I just kind of transposed that. And I thought, okay, well, if I am studying this and I'm studying the rightness, the perfection, the beauty, the holy, the sacred in everything, then this darkness that I'm feeling must be holy and beautiful and sacred. So I put on a trash bag. And I think I
put on a trash bag.
Yeah. And I put a sign. I was living with a bunch of people at the time. And I thought, well, if I'm feeling dark, I don't want to act like I'm not feeling dark. So I put on a trash bag and I put like ash on my face from the fireplace. And I put on a sign that said, "A raging bitch from hell." And just walked around all day. And I was like, this feels curiously better just to have my insides and my outsides match. And it kind of like gave me permission to just be like, when people would come, show up, I'd be like, "Ah, that is who I am right now. Ah!" And they'd be like, yeah. You go, girl. You go. You rock on. You go on with your ragey, bitchy self. But it gave me so much liberation. It was like freedom. And then a number of years later, when I started to recognize that when women would begin the journey of owning their pussies, like the first thing that would happen is all the reasons why we didn't. The rage, the grief, the repression, the outrage, the shame, like all of it would like vomit to the surface. And so I was like, oh, we got to throw the trash bags on. Like, let's celebrate the pussies. Let's get that done with. Celebrate the fuck out of those pussies, honor them. And then we got to put the trash bags on. And all the drops of the places where there was pain, hurt, repression, violation, we would swamp, meaning move or embody the darkness, whatever that was. Move or embody the grief, whatever that was, and just like play it out in the body. Because if you can't embody it, then it stays like locked inside. And so it was just so much liberation. We just like, because then you can grow. If you can expand your pleasure and then deal with all of the, the trauma response that was keeping everything repressed in the first place, let it out, embody it, then you can really grow. So swamping is just, as we did in the tent, all of us, and loves witnessing, right? So doing it one at a time. It's great to do it in a group, but every woman loves being witnessed, no matter what state she's in. So we'd swamp one at a time, and we got to like embody how frustrated we were that we like arrived at fucking Burning Man, that we could not fucking sleep, that we were like, every cell of our being was shredded in all the ways that all the hopes and dreams we had for a great experience were being shattered. That and then it starts to trigger all of that rage and all of that grief that's left over inside of you from other experiences where you felt betrayed or overstepped or overlooked or whatever that was. And so we each got to embody that, hold space for that with no coaching. Just like, yeah, like, give it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Give me all your darkness. Oh my God, your darkness is so beautiful. Bring it. Bring it hard. Yeah. And then cheer each other on. We're just celebrating a side of our feminine. And that's what we did.
That changed everything.
Really?
Oh, everything. Everything from that point forward, when I actually allowed myself to feel it, as opposed to being like, oh, I've got this. I'll just, I'll be strong.
Right.
It's like, actually to be strong is to allow yourself to feel all of that. That for me is what it really means to be a strong individual, is to claim, embody, allow, access, release, transmute.
Yeah. And isn't that interesting? She feels we're okay now. And so she left your lap.
Oh yeah.
She's like, okay, they're fine. They're not talking about pain anymore. They're talking about celebrating. I can be free. Yeah.
She really is. 11 years in, she's so tuned in.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's remarkable. To just speak energy. So I remember it was my first time ever doing it.
Yeah.
And also in my frame, I have so much respect for the work that you do based off of reading your book, Pussy, a Reclamation. P.S. If you haven't read it or listened to it on Audible, must. Link will be in the show notes.
Thank you.
So when I'm actually in the presence of you, in the three of us, two individuals, Layla Martin and yourself, who I respect immensely in the work that you're doing, I feel like, okay, there is a silver lining to everything that is unfolding right now. Yeah. And what you did is, like, Layla and I sat on one side of the room, you sat on the other, and you got to choose some songs that really allowed you feel to access those spaces. Mm-hmm. And what you did is you set the bar really high for the level of liberation and expression that can be created within this space. If I had gone first, it would have sort of like, I think, not been, fully as expressed, or the container wouldn't have been wide enough for all of the emotions to breathe. Right. And so what you did is you expanded the space really wide, and you allowed me to have the privilege of witnessing you in your swamping.
Thank you.
And it brought me to tears with what a truly liberated woman looks like as a reference point in my consciousness.
Wow, that's cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's why, like, whenever you see me, I'm like, hi! I'm like, this is so good. Regena's here. This is amazing. And then being able to witness Layla, and then me going last, and having that container expanded so widely that I allowed myself to access places. And
you did so good. You went to the wild side.
I went to the
wild side.
You went to
the
wild
side.
She's
Yes.
She needs permission that it's
it
safe
so
again
good.
to feel it.
It was amazing.
And then after that experience, things just started to work out. Mm-hmm. Because I had allowed myself to feel the unexpressed. So instead of it just like sitting there below the surface bubbling, which is essentially then creating more to match that because it's not being felt yet. Yeah. So it's just constantly like triggering, we need to feel this. We need to feel this. Okay, is it going to be another situation that's going to give you access to feel this? It's going to be this that's going to access you to feel this. When are you going to feel this? Yeah. To then feel it, lay it all on the table, and then from that frequency start to manifest that of what's going on internally. Yeah. So the swamping experience created a new reference point about how I relate to all of my emotions.
That is so cool. Okay, so how's it living inside you now, a few months later?
There is just full permission to recognize the mantra, which is Reverend Brianna Lynn shared with me, is the most sacred thing is what is. So I have such
That's beautiful. I like that. The most sacred thing.
The most sacred thing is just what is.
Aww.
It's just so much permission, and I feel like the weight off the shoulders just go.
Yeah.
And so I have the gift of being able to be surrounded by individuals that cherish me for the dark side of the moon and the light side of the moon, aka Rachel being one of them. And so she sees me like in all of the full spectrum.
For real.
And in her presence, I can be like, I'm agitated today.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's really cute. Like, I love that. I love that you're agitated. Like, get it, baby girl. Like,
Yeah.
like her reflection, which is then a
Mhm.
constant reinforcement, which again is putting the emphasis on a lot of your work, which is sisterhood
Yeah.
and the safe spaces that are cultivated within that.
Yeah.
However, also within the house, whenever somebody's going through a process, it's just like what it truly means to hold space is just to love them for it.
Yeah.
Just to like, oh, don't need to fix you. I don't need to coach you. I don't need to give you feedback. The medicine is just witnessing.
Right. Isn't that, there's so much power in that?
So,
And as women, because we're kind of acculturated to always think something's wrong with us, because we're feminine bodies living in a patriarchal culture, always finding ourselves wrong, we've internalized that message. Not to mention, so many industries make a fuck ton of money when we think we're wrong. Beauty industry, fashion industry, shapewear industry. There's so many, even deodorant. Like, I happen to love the smell of my own sweat and the sweat of others. Like, I think it's so intoxicating. It's so delicious. Like, oh my God. But people in the deodorant industry want me to think that my body fragrance is wrong. And so they sell me shit that. And we could go on and on and on. But so once those messages are internalized, we start to think our emotions are wrong. We start to think the emotions of the other are wrong. And then we get in this trap of always trying to fix people instead of just trusting the truth, which is like, if I'm in grief, let me grieve, for fuck's sake. Nothing is wrong with me. I just had a major loss. I just want to collapse inside my own tears. And I want to just be there for as long as it takes. And because like grief is, it's first of all, it's like a real human, I don't know. I think it's so needed in this world. I think grief, like we repress the fuck out of our grief, just like we repress the fuck out of our sex and sensuality, and like we repress the fuck out of our pleasure. And I think that when we grieve, it's almost like grief is gratitude for the depth and breadth of the way we have loved whatever it is that we have lost. And so when you can allow someone to just like be in those, dark emotions or whatever we're calling them, and trust them. I know you got this. Yeah, bring me your tears. Yeah, you are so beautiful. You are so beautiful in your grief. You're beautiful in your rage. You're beautiful in your jealousy. You're beautiful in your frustration. Then we get to reclaim that. And we don't think it's wrong. We think, oh shit, yeah, this is my process right now. Yeah. And then you start to trust yourself deeply. And then you can trust life deeply, which is a very different way to live.
And it reminds me that it's in the presence of individuals that have made peace with their own shadow are those that truly hold space for me when I'm being witnessed in my own. And that is ultimately what it truly means to become the medicine when we do the deep work is, I've met my shadow. I've learned to soften into the grief as opposed to fight it. And from that ability to soften, then I don't feel uncomfortable when somebody else is in a process in front of me because I've made peace with my own dark night of the soul. So that when you're in yours, it's just a witnessing with unconditional love without it triggering something deeper within me. It's like, oh, that's too much because it's only too much because I haven't accessed that within my own self.
Exactly. Now, how did you end up in this seat? Like, what was your journey from where to where that ended you up in with the gold fuck you finger above our heads?
That's hilarious. I didn't even register it as a fuck you finger, but like I like it. It's a sacred fuck you. Like this. Sacred fuck you hands. So in what sort of sense? Like around like my sexuality or just empowerment in general?
Just like what did you have to like alchemize in you to become this woman?
I think there's been multiple pieces. One of them was needing to be the nice girl or the good girl.
Okay, got
and
it.
that was when I got validation from the outside world that I was doing right by
Yeah.
what society deemed
Yeah.
successful, and recognizing that I was actually living a very shell or like a hollow existence where I'd look at photos of myself in my early teens and it was like the lights were on but no one was home.
Yeah.
There wasn't that
Yeah.
substance.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of sadness that also came with being the nice girl
Yeah.
or the good girl. And then also partnered that with my hearing loss.
And how did you get your hearing loss?
My brother and I were both diagnosed with a hereditary hearing
Got
disorder
it.
at the age of 25. And it's been a journey ever since. And I have been going on a very, very deep internal inquiry around what I'm not listening to. What am I like really like not just hearing, but listening to?
Yeah.
And that took me on a massive exploration around how I was living from the outside in.
Yeah.
I was living from external validation, external sense of what success was, external narrative that actually is very rooted in the mire of illusion.
Yeah.
That is actually creating this mask that everyone goes, I'm happy because I'm making X amount of money, but then behind closed doors, like completely withering away and wondering why the body is suffering.
Right.
And so what this did was it allowed me to understand that Albert Einstein talks about energy is not created nor destroyed, only changed in form.
Yeah.
And so the deafness was really just a byproduct where I wasn't listening to living from the inside out based off a vibratory standpoint. So that took me on a journey with, traveling solo and sitting with plant medicines, with maestros in the Amazon jungle, and going on the deeper inquiry around how can I heal this from the inside out while aligning myself with a vibratory reality based off my full fuck yes.
Got it.
So that has been the best journey of my life.
Wow.
And so it's really about like the curriculum of going, okay, if I feel crunchy, if I feel stiff, I feel uncomfortable, I'm afraid, that's the very direction that I want to lean and soften into. And so, for example, just in this context of when you present yourself in my field, your level of vibration without even needing to say a word highlights the area of my life in my own unique way where I haven't allowed myself to liberate that expression. And so you become medicine for me to allow me to access a deeper part of my own power just by being in the space.
Right.
And so I have just shifted my narrative and my relationship with fear and contraction as an opportunity to grow.
Yeah. And which it sounds to me like you're willing to use every experience as medicine, not just me, but your hearing loss. And I'm sure everything, like it's almost become, like we were talking about the divine feminine. She finds the sacred in all things. There's a part of you that is like uniquely hooked with that viewpoint. And so you're saying it was basically your hearing loss that opened that portal for you. Isn't that great?
It's the essence of our greatest challenge is our greatest gift.
Yeah.
And that's why, when I asked you that question of like, what was the challenge for you to be able to be in this place of offering this gift, not only within yourself, but within so many others. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with I asked you this before, the gene keys, which is a technology.
Right.
So it basically breaks down our DNA and how there's multiple archetypes that run through us predominantly in our DNA. And there's always a shadow, there's a gift, and there's what's called the CD, which is the enlightened aspect when your lenses is super clean and you can see reality without the Maya.
Yeah.
So I had deafness in my chart, but the gift was insight and the CD was epiphany. So it's actually a truth filter based off of a vibrational level to recognize the vibration behind the words as opposed to the words themselves, which often lie, but energy never does.
Yeah.
So when I actually reframed what was happening, actually it's a superpower, then all of a sudden, the universe could only bring back more of that I was emanating in the stories I was telling myself. And so every time I see someone in their shadow now, I'm always looking for the superpower that's laced inherently within it.
Yeah.
And so I guess that refers back to what you're saying about seeing everything as medicine.
Yeah.
Because even within the shadow, it holds a sacred purpose. And your swamping, for example, is such an incredible frame to allow ourselves to receive the gift where once was deemed as unworthy, unlovable, push it away, don't show it, put it to the side.
Right.
Where actually we're creating a completely new paradigm through the stories and the reframe that we're telling ourselves. And I feel like you are right on the front line of brothers, sisters, everyone in between, with our peace paint on and our pussies out and our titties out and we're banging our drums and we're moving forward in a line when I look to my left and my right as equals.
Yeah.
Moving through our empowerment for our liberation being our song of revolution.
Mm-hmm. I just want to like clap and like, where's the band and the marching band coming through the door right now to just celebrate the fuck out of what you just said.
And they come, you know.
Yeah, here they come. I can see them. Beyonce's leading them in. I don't know why. I love her.
With the triangle as well. Don't forget the triangle. It's an important part of the band. Yeah. And so it's thank you so much for asking me these beautiful questions on the podcast. Usually I'm like the one that's delivering the questions, but this is so beautiful to be able to weave with you in this way.
Yeah, and I'm sure so many people know your story, but I also love to see how all of our stories kind of interface, because I'm always I think probably your audience are all people who are on their own cutting edge journey. And the more, I've always like gotten so much liberation from storylines of people that I love and admire, of understanding that hardship, we all have it, no matter how our lives look. And it's like how we choose to interface with it, not as life's victims, but as opportunities. That's like, those are the most exciting storylines.
And I feel like the stories are the permission slip in which we refer back to, like a zip file that gets pulled forward when we actually face a situation in the moment. So it's like, oh, the situation comes up. Oh, I remember hearing that story.
Yeah.
That this is how she responded in this moment. I'm going to shift just 1 degree to the right.
Yeah.
Now, if you just shift 1 degree, but you follow that degree over 20 years, it kind of goes out like this. So it's it goes out and it makes this massive difference.
It sure does.
From one story that changes your decision in that moment.
Yeah, completely. And you never know where that storyline is going to come or how it's going to impact you. And you just have to treasure those amazing moments.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the best parts about being human is being able to share stories with each other and illuminate each other through our expression and what we've unlocked.
Yeah, for real.
So I would love to, I guess, circle in on your School for Womanly Arts. That has always been such, again, a deep inspiration for me. I co-founded Fluorescence with my dear sister, which is activating women into their ancient intelligence through their bodies, through their beings, financially, on all the different vibrational planes. And you have been such an incredible inspiration around what you have created. I'd love to hear your perspective on the power of sisterhood and what it truly means to be held in sisterhood and how important that is for the healing of the collective.
Yeah. Everything. It's fucking everything. Like we are not going to get here anywhere we want to go without sistering. It's just like the most important thing in the world. And I think it is one of the most feared and yet transformative relationships if you can find a way to sister or be sistered. And sistering is not something our culture knows any fucking thing about. In fact, the bonds of sisterhood, like they try to like cut that shit and keep us divided. I remember when I was first starting the School of Womanly Arts, I knew that I was, throwing all kinds of shit at the wall in the early days. I was teaching all kinds of co-ed courses and different like classes for, sexuality classes and communication classes, all kinds of crazy shit. And then when I had my daughter, I just felt like such a sense of responsibility to my ancestors. I felt so grateful like that I'd been able to join a legacy of people that pushed out babies. And I felt such a sense of responsibility to the girls of today who will be the women of tomorrow. And like, what was I doing to make the world able to handle who and what a woman was? So right around that time, I encountered this film called Dangerous Beauty, one of the best movies ever. And it was about a courtesan mother who was teaching her daughter, who could either be a nun or a courtesan. Those are the only options because the family didn't have money. She was teaching her daughter to be a courtesan. And she said these words. She said, if you want to give pleasure, you must know pleasure. And so she went about the business of kind of doing what your girlfriends did in boarding school, like teach each other how to like relate to men to the best of their ability. But she was very schooled in all of the arts of being a woman. And so she was able to teach her about flirtation and connection and sensuality and pleasure and all the things that were not available to the average woman, but a woman that was committing herself to studying the depth and breadth of the feminine. She had explored all of this. So I started to realize, like, oh shit, there was a day and there was a time when there's a legacy of from mother to daughter, probably pre-patriarchy, where actually women were able to give each other valuable tools, information, resources about the feminine. And that was not happening now. We actually feel strangely competitive with other women, like, oh, that woman is going to go for the job I want, or she's going to try to steal my man away, or she's more beautiful than I am. And so we're competitors. So I was noticing this competition. And then when women do relate, they end up relating on mutual victimizations. Like, oh, my husband forgot my birthday. Oh, I have the worst boss in the world. Oh, my kids are driving me crazy. And then everybody jumps on the victim train. So I was like, oh shit, women don't know how to connect. And so I thought, okay, I got to start the School of Womanly Arts. And we're going to like do a complete redux of this. And so I would just follow, like I would just reverse where I saw the victimizations happening. And so instead of women complaining, there's no complaining allowed. No trashing of men allowed. No trashing of sisterhood allowed. First thing everybody had to do when they showed up was brag, celebrate themselves, and then upride each other for being fabulous. So somebody would come in and say, I just asked for a raise and I got it. And then made everyone say, yay, you did so good. Yay. Why? Because it was reversing the order of the culture to allow a woman to celebrate herself and then allow women to celebrate her celebration of herself. And then what that would do, it was strike open that chord inside of all the participants in the class, which at the beginning were a handful. And then I would notice other women would start asking for the raise because they saw a sister who did it. Or other women started asking their partners, their girlfriends, their husbands, to make a bath for them because they saw another woman doing it. And I thought, shit, this is the answer right here. And it's not doing anything differently except choosing to have a woman celebrate herself rather than trash herself and having other women celebrate her. And I saw there was so much power, because it wasn't even about what I was teaching. It was about what women can teach each other.
Yeah.
And I thought, fuck yes. And then with a few guidelines, no trashing of thyself, no trashing of the men or the women or the children in your lives. And then we have something very worthy of teaching a culture back to itself. And so it was not hard. It was super simple. And then it just started to explode and expand. But I think you asked me about sistering. And maybe you asked me more things about sistering, but that's kind of how it started.
Yeah.
And it's not changed much, except it's gotten bigger and bigger. And then, of course, there's opportunities for women to support each other beyond the classroom or even internationally and globally with our activism and the way we stand for other women inside this world. Because in my opinion, every woman is a sister to one another and every woman a goddess. And when we treat a woman as our sister and a goddess, we bring the best out of her and we bring the best out of ourselves. So there was just so much liberation. It doesn't end. Sistering doesn't end in its gifts, but a woman really has to learn how to sister. And we have so much charge on the way we've been betrayed by women that it requires swamping and some other practices, but we can get there. We can get there. And I stand for a world that whenever a woman sees another woman, she sees sister in her eyes, no matter who that woman is, no matter where that woman lives. Like, we choose sisterhood. And that is possible in our lifetimes. It just takes a moment. It's a decision. So I stand for that. I know you do too.
It's so important.
It's so the everything of the everything.
And what I really, really, really appreciate is your ability to detect where there is a misalignment in what we have been fed and then create the new normal.
Yeah.
And then create a practical solution.
Just the reverse.
Not sit and complain about it, but to actually create a solution around it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is the missing piece. Let's create it.
Let's just put it in place.
And then it's quick. Simple, but again, it's that 1 degree that makes a massive shift in our reality.
And I have to say the spine to like that degree of attunement that I have, which is a massive degree of attunement. Like I can just feel when something's off. Like, you know, we all can as women. It's like my connection to my pussy. My choosing to power up my pussy, my choosing to trust my pussy, my choosing to learn my pussy, to have like to really learn my orgasm, to feel so right about this beautiful, exquisite feminine body, this source of creation. Like the fact that we create life in these bodies is such an edge. And if we resist that, if we put ourselves down, if we don't learn about our pussies and about our orgasmic potential, then we're not really able to tune into our deepest, most profound intuition. And we need to do that now. The world needs us to really power the fuck up. I think women are the greatest untapped natural resource on this planet. And the time to tap is now. And it's through our pleasure that we are going to bring the most healing and the most alignment and the most enlightenment to this world.
Reading your book completely altered the course of how I relate to my own pussy.
Wow.
And the GPS, baby. The great pussy in the sky.
Right on.
So in the book, Regena refers to trusting our pussy wisdom and our intuition as the GPS.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense. The great pussy in the sky. And literally like before a meeting or when I've just interacted with somebody or before I'm about to give a talk or a podcast, it's just checking in with the GPS. How you feeling?
Yeah.
What's good? What do you need?
Yeah.
Like even just opening a dialogue, right? It's like a relationship. Like if I never spoke to you again, our relationship would wilt, you know, we start to like, or like didn't speak to you for 6 months or whatever. It would like, you start to wilt because it needs watering. It needs nourishing for a relationship to form. Same thing with our pussies. Are we checking in? I'm like, hey, what's up? Were you good? How you feeling? You turned on and completely contracted. Like just even a dialogue. To create that connection. Now I hadn't even thought about it until you articulated it in a form of a book that I could actually read.
I'm so glad.
Oh, I've handed that book out to so many people.
Thank you, baby.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Oh,
that's very sisterly of you.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Because when other women win, we all win.
Totally. And we weren't brought up to perceive that. And I think once you've been sistered in that way, like when a woman stands for you, it allows you to be able to do that for others. So that's powerful.
Yeah, it spreads.
Yeah, it really and truly does.
And I think the greatest gift we can ever give anybody is like to see them, to like just acknowledge and to give a full undivided attention and presence.
Completely. And I also want to say like there was a day and there was a time, you know, just like you're describing, there was like a before you read pussy and then there's an after you read pussy, right?
Yeah.
For
it's
me,
like before Christ and after Christ,
it's
basically.
pretty much. and there was a time like before I was Mama Gena, you know, I was like the most repressed and like shut down and depressed and suicidal person in the world. So if you're feeling in that way now, anybody who's listening, it is not permanent. It is possible that actually that state is, and the questions that arise about yourself and the longings that arise in those places are going to lead you to your fullest liberation. That maybe you're listening to this podcast so that you will connect powerfully with your pussy, you know, and she will lead you to your dreams. Like it is a quick journey to liberation once you hand her the keys, you know, then she's like, okay, I got you. I will care for you.
And even if you are somebody that's in a relationship with someone that has a pussy, and like also being in the reverent space of understanding what this the power of it as opposed to something to take,
right?
But to something to revere and to something to have respect. And it's that beautiful reciprocity in which we create a new relationship with the respect of the portal from one dimension to the next, and the power of like non-physical to the physical realm. Literally the Stargate Enterprise between dimensions. It's amazing. And after reading the book, I realized, like, being naked in front of my sisters, like there was still this part of me that was like covering and closing myself off and hiding, and they all look so different, and maybe mine's weird or whatever it is, and actually starting to peel back the layers of shame that has been encrusted around my physical vessel, that actually in the liberation of my sisters of recognizing, hey, we can all be naked together and create an equal playing field and equality between all of us, and allow ourselves to renegotiate our relationship with our own bodies. My birthday, P.S., this is a really fun fact. My last birthday, my 32nd birthday, was spent in the middle of a circle of 25 to 30 women, all topless. I was
Nice.
gifted
You're
a
doing
dildo,
well.
a dildo for my birthday, and that became the talking stick.
So nice. This is
So
beautiful.
I'm sitting in the middle of this circle with all these beautiful women with their breasts out, all different shapes,
So
breast
good.
sizes, nipple colors, all the things, in our full diversity, with a dildo talking stick. And instead of saying "aho" or like closing out because each person would go around and share a prayer that they wanted to offer me for my birthday.
Wow.
And instead of saying "aho" or "amen," they just squeeze their boobs and go, and it would send out the prayer to the universe.
That's
and then
so
they
beautiful.
pass the dildo on to the next
That's
person.
beautiful.
And it was
That's
just my
beautiful.
sisters. Like it was the fullest liberated. Because if there was any brothers in this space, I think that our liberation would have been a little bit smaller.
Would have been different.
For sure.
Yeah.
And this is the power of the sisterhood and energetics that we're talking about,
so
is
good.
full liberation, full play, full sensuality, full connection. And to sit in the middle of it and just have all these women just send out these prayers to me. I was like, I think I may have made it.
Yeah.
To whatever it is, this feels like it.
You did. And what were some of their, like, can you recall what people wanted or saw for you?
It was a lot. The ones that I remember was to validate myself from the inside out.
Okay.
And no matter how far I'm going in my path and the direction that I'm going, specifically because I am more so in the public eye, is to recognize that the validation always comes from within, and that I'm so deeply rooted in my sense of self that the winds of change or the world of projections does not pull me outside of myself.
Yeah.
That was like a general
That's beautiful.
theme. It's so beautiful.
That's beautiful. Great.
Sisters that really get
I think
me.
you're doing really good with that.
Oh, thank you.
And then what else? Did anybody have any like naughty desires for you?
Oh, yeah.
Like what?
Rach, do you remember any? Oh, yeah. To be met in the level of passion that I emanate out into the world for a beloved, to meet me in the depth of how I meet other, but in like the richest, juiciest, most honored, like equality way.
Okay, well, let's talk about that for a minute. Is this the year for you to meet a beloved, or is this a year for you to experiment with lovers? Or okay.
So I'm in the narrative right now around what it truly means to allow my eros to live without shame or guilt.
Okay.
And this feels like the new way of relating.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, I have experienced major contraction when my monogamous partner feels connection with anybody else.
Oh, okay.
Because I haven't allowed that within myself. And so, of course, it becomes a projection that they must also live by the same rules, which is actually a constriction of love.
Yeah.
So now being out of partnership, my intention is to go into the crunchy and feel that and allow myself to be liberated in every aspect.
Okay. And how's that going? Because that's a little terrifying. It's kind of scary.
Terrifying and liberating all in the same breath. I just happen to live in a house, as you know, with women that are in their fullest liberation around their sexual energy and their eros, which is such good medicine for me. And for the first time in my life, I am opening myself up to connect with women, which is so fun.
It's so fun.
Oh my gosh. And I realize now.
So do you have a woman lover?
Adventures?
Woman-centric adventures?
We are opening up the conversation for the possibility of
that's
women
great.
And I'm noticing the difference in the presence of a woman, the difference between sensuality and sexuality. That there's actually a significant difference.
Significant.
I just place them on top of each other and that's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can be in the presence of a woman and be sensual and not necessarily turned on, but like in just like oh my gosh, she smells amazing. Her skin's really soft. Like,
yeah.
And I loved the touch is so gentle and yet nurturing and caring.
So
and it's
great.
an experience I haven't experienced with men.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, hold on. So I was like limited to like 50% of the population, and now we're just open it to 100% of the population. We just got like a 50% opening of a window here of this beautiful, sensual, sexy fruit that is like ripe. And so I'm enjoying this childlike awe and play while also partnering her with my sensual, sexual connection in the full liberation without shame and guilt.
Okay, great. This is going to be fun adventure to kind of like, how should we say, chart with you as you continue down the steps of liberation and exploration. It's great. It's so good. So proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
You have released a lot of chains. And you're going to be helping so many people release chains as you take this journey. It's going to be beautiful and inspiring. You should have all your lovers come on your podcasts if they're fun. Wouldn't that be fun? Oh my God.
Grade A clickbait, darling. Welcome to lover number one. Here we go. This is my number one lover. These are the things I love about this person. X, Y, and Z. And then we bring on the next person. Realizing also it's an injustice to project onto one person that they're supposed to tick all the boxes.
Exactly. You know, it's just a few. That's all you want.
Yeah, like nourishment from this individual.
You stuff on this little hand.
Huh?
Yeah, how many people could you fit on this little hand?
We can hang off with the middle finger. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. These are my 5 current lovers. This is what each brings to the table. And across the board, we cover all of the boxes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an injustice to project onto somebody to tick all the boxes. It's an honoring of each individual gift to recognize nourishment comes from multiple places.
Yeah.
Like the hummingbird that knows where to receive its nectar from the multiple flowers.
It's just a little hummingbird.
Yeah. I do like this idea. I think this is actually a brilliant idea to bring him on. And because also you've asked me questions that I have never been asked on the podcast today. I think this is going to be a very clicked podcast.
Oh, good.
Because you have, in the presence of you, there is a full transmutation of any shame and guilt. And in your questions, it's laced with a deep love and respect for just the full spectrum. And so the way that you ask the question, it brings out a deeper truth that's a vulnerability in such an easy way.
That's
like
good.
Almost talking about like how I paint.
Yeah, that's all. It's just like that.
So I want to say thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
For just everything that you are and everything that you be, the way that you dress, the way that you present yourself off camera, on camera, it's all the same. And it is truly, like I've said this multiple times, but it is a real honor to be in the presence of you.
Thank you. I feel the same about you. I just feel so inspired by you. You're just so fucking gorgeous and glorious. And, you know, on this path with so much love and generosity. And I feel, I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful that we've connected in the way we have. And I look forward to more. Thanks for bringing me on your podcast, baby.
I'm so excited. when I texted you and said, does this day and time work? And you just texted me back saying, I'm all yours. I let out a minor squeal. I was like, ah! I remember when I first started the podcast, you were top on the list of individuals that I wanted to come on. Yeah.
Oh, wow. How long ago did you start this thing?
2 years ago.
Shit.
Yeah. And we've really been rocking it. Wow. I started in my backyard in a garage, like a little shed with a hand-me-down mic, no video, nothing.
Wow.
And over the years, it's evolved and it's organically picked up. And now we have millions of listeners worldwide. And it's become such a gift. And you were right there, right at the start.
Damn. Okay. All dreams are coming true.
Yeah, exactly. In real time. Here, get to show you. And also I've had people write to me on Instagram that they refer to you as Mama Gena, and they are so excited. They're like, "Oh, this is going to be the juiciest conversation." And I'm like, "Yeah, don't disappoint. Your expectations are probably met."
Yeah. And then you write, and P.S., are you hot? Because right now I'm auditioning.
If you don't mind sending me a picture of your face, that would be great. I'm scouting right now. I'm in my sacred slut phase, so send me some submissions to my website, www.blueandmama.com. Thank you. So for those that are new to your work and don't already follow you online, how can people find your work and follow you?
So many ways. Okay, first of all, probably one of the best ways. On Instagram, I'm Mama Gena. So find me because my content is really fun.
It is amazing, P.S.
And then my website, www.mamagenas.com. Don't forget the S. mamagenas.com. And that, that enables people to sign up for my newsletter and the free stuff I offer there, which is all gorgeous and good. Especially right now, there's some juicy things happening. And then my books, which are available everywhere. And there's 4 of them. And I would say start with Pussy Reclamation. But don't miss Mama Gena's School of Womanly Arts.
Yeah, I haven't read that.
Oh my God. It's so damn good. You know what it's good for? It's good for the daily practices. Like the little daily practices just pop in. And then there's the Owner's and Operator's Guide to Men, which is super helpful in a million ways with partnering. And then the Mama Gena's Marriage Manual, which is also a great book, even though I am not married. So yeah, those are the ways to find me. They're all fun ways. So I look forward to being found.
And then also one final additional stage, if you want to find Mama Gena, is to get a hand mirror and look into your pussy dead in the eye and find Mama Gena's liberation in your own pussy.
Truth.
Yeah.
Truth and justice. Exactly. Yeah. And if you want to find Blu's liberation, what you do is you start humping furniture. Just hump any furniture and get yourself off, as she did for many years as a child. Okay, maybe that's not the medicine you would have given, but I just thought it was so damn cute. Just imagine you with your little, all that Scorpio in you and trying to figure out what the hell to do with it.
Well, I'm just gyrating on random objects.
Yeah, that's it.
We're just out here. Just like, this sofa looks pretty damn cushy. I'm just going to get my grind on. Mom walks in the room and was like, oh, okay. I was born Charlotte. Charlotte's gyrating again. We're out here. We're
little
just
genius that you were.
Pleasure.
God, you're brilliant. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So welcome.
All of the, literally, this experience has felt like this, really rich and colorful and inviting, and just the whole experience has just been
yay.
Thank you, Queen.
Yay. Thank you. Love you.
Adore you. Alrighty, beautiful humans. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Deja Blu podcast. If you resonate with today's episode, then please do the liberation of sharing it on our social media platforms. On Instagram, tag myself, Mama Gena, the Deja Blu podcast. If you feel like it could resonate with somebody that is in your life that you care about, then go ahead and send it and share it. We're going to reach so many more people through sharing it all collectively as opposed to our individual platforms. So this is a way to spread a good message, recognizing the message isn't about us, it's moving through us for the collective, for all of our liberation, so that we can create inequality on this planet and to create genuine healing for future generations to come. Thank you for being here and for being such an incredible support. If you love this video, then comment in the section below, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. And until next week, sending you so much love.